realize,
realize, realize,
realize,
realize, realize,
realize,
realize. Realize, breakfast toss, tough, tough, tough,
tough,
tough, tough, tough. So breakfast in other countries besides America is very different. I haven't traveled to many countries, but in the countries where I have traveled to, I have noticed big differences in style of breakfast people eat. So in Europe, for example, breakfast is very small. I was really surprised when I first went to Europe. I realized, I realized, I realized,
realize,
realized, I realized, I realized, I realized,
realize,
realize, realize,
realized, I realized that breakfast is not a big meal. Um, if you are from Europe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For many European, breakfast is simply a piece of bread with some butter or jam. Toast, I should say, butter toast or toast with jam or some kind of sweet bread or something like that. Plus orange juice or coffee. That's it. Maybe in France, people might eat a croissant. Croissant. I don't know.
croissant,
Croissant.
croissant,
Croissant.
croissant,
Croissant. Um, maybe French people maybe in France people might eat a croissant and a cup of coffee or espresso. That's it. For me as an American, that's tough. That's tough. That's not easy for me to eat and not eat anything else. I want a little bit more than that. So but I know that some people don't want to eat that much for breakfast. I understand that. I'm sure some of my listeners in other places around the world have even different style of breakfast, not just like American or Europeans, Europeans, but something else that I just don't know. I have I've been interested to learn about breakfast all over the world. But I know that some people don't want to eat that much for breakfast. I understand that, and I'm sure some of my listeners, some of my listener in other places around the world, have even different style of breakfast. Not just like American or European, but something else that I just don't know. I've been interested to learn about breakfast all over the world. For me, my typical breakfast is kind of like an American breakfast. My wife usually cooks me eggs, bacon, and maybe even hash brown or toast or something like that. hash browns are potatoes that we eat for breakfast. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe them very well. So there's kind of fried, or maybe there's not. They are not. I don't know. The taste very good, but the taste very good. You probably seen them before. They are called hash brown. Sometimes eat that. I sometimes eat that. We also eat fruit for breakfast. So mango, papaya, apple, something like that, or maybe yogurt, a little bit vegetable. There are different options. So I definitely love my bacon and egg for breakfast. I love that combinations. That's one of my favorite breakfasts.
Combination.
Combination, combination. I love that combination, combination,
Combination.
combination. Breakfast. Just a minute. I need to write it down to learn and to understand what I say. Wait a minute. I need to find my pen. I don't know where my pen. So okay, let's get started. Let's get started.
Drinks in, like tea, coffee, hot chocolate, etc. It's that cup that something like that. Camping is, say, buttered toast or toast with jam, or Cheerios, apple cinnamon Cheerios, Apple Jacks, a lot of different cereals. But yeah, many Americans eat cereal on the weekdays, but it's something that we do often, right? Or we like to go out to restaurants to eat breakfast. Other countries, when I was in toast with jam or some kind of sweet bread or something like that, plus orange juice or coffee, right? And that's it. Maybe in France, toast with jam. Breakfast is, well, I realized that breakfast is not a big meal there, right? If you're surprised, I've noticed big differences besides America. Did this a lot when I was growing up with my family, or even as an adult. I still do this a lot. So breakfast in other countries.
Breakfast in other countries.
Welcome to the Listening Time Pod. Oh, exactly what I'm talking about. For many Europeans, we like to eat a bigger breakfast. You've probably seen the American breakfast. Yeah, many Americans eat cereal on the weekdays, but on the week we do often, or even as an adult. I still do this a lot. So breakfast in other countries.
So breakfast in other country.
Besides America.
Besides America. Besides America.
Is very different, right? I haven't traveled to many countries.
It's very different. is very different. I haven't traveled. I haven't traveled to many countries. I haven't traveled to many countries.
But in the countries where I have traveled,
But in the country where I have traveled,
to,
where I have traveled to,
I've noticed big differences
I've noted different. I've noted. I've noted. I've noted different, big differences. I've noted differences
in the type of breakfast that people eat.
in the Thai breakfast, in the Thai breakfast people eat. So breakfast in other countries beside America is very different. I haven't traveled to many countries. So but in the country I have traveled before, I have traveled to, I've noted big differences in the Thai breakfast people eat.
So in Europe, for example, breakfast is very small.
So in the Europe breakfast is very small. In the Europe breakfast is very small.
Right? I was really surprised
I was really surprised. I was really surprised
when I first went to Europe.
when I first went to Europe. When I first went to Europe.
When I was in Spain and in Portugal,
When I was in Spain or Portugal. When I was in Spain and Portugal.
I realized that breakfast is not a big meal there.
I realize that breakfast is not a big meal. I realized that breakfast is not a big meal.
Right? If you're from Europe,
Right? If you're from Europe, if you're from Europe,
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
For many Europeans,
For many
breakfast is
Europeans,
simply a piece of bread
for many European, breakfast is simply a piece of bread. A piece of
bread with some butter or jam.
with some butter jam. I realized that breakfast is not a big meal. So if you're from Europe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So for many European, so for many Europe, so for many European, breakfast is simply a piece of bread with butter or jam.
Toast, I should say.
Toast, I should say.
Buttered toast or
Buttered
toast with jam
toast with jam,
or some kind of
appetizer,
sweet bread or
bread, or some kind of sweet bread.
something like that.
Some kind of sweet bread, something like that.
Plus orange juice or coffee.
Plus orange juice. Plus orange juice or coffee. All right. So breakfast in other country beside breakfast is other countries beside America is very different. I haven't traveled. I haven't traveled to many countries. I haven't traveled to many countries, but in the countries I have traveled to, I have noted a big differences. Mm, differences in the differences in the type of breakfast people eat. I've noted big differences in the type of breakfast people eat. In Europe, breakfast is very small. I really surprised that breakfast is not a big meal. I really surprised when I first went to Europe, I realized that breakfast is not a big meal. So if you're from Europe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for many European, breakfast is simply a piece of bread with some butter or jam, toast, I should say, or some kinds of sweet bread, something like that. Plus orange juice or coffee, like.
Right? And that's it.
And that's it.
Maybe in
And that's it. That's it.
France, people might just eat a croissant and a cup of coffee or a
And a cup of coffee.
small espresso, and that's it.
That's it.
For me, as an American,
For me as an American, for me as a Vietnamese, For me as an American, just a minute. As an American, for me as an American,
Ooh, that's tough.
that's tough. That's tough.
That's not easy for me to
That's not easy. For me
to eat and not eat anything else.
to eat and not eat anything else.
Right? I want a little bit more than that.
And I want a little more. A little bit more. I want a little bit more than that.
But I know that some people don't want to eat that much for breakfast.
But I know that some people don't want to eat that much. I know I know that some people don't want to eat that much.
Right? I understand that.
For breakfast, I understand that.
And I'm sure some of my listeners in other places around the world
And I'm sure some of my listeners in other places around the world
have even different styles of
have even different style.
breakfast.
Stylish breakfast.
Not just like American or European, but
Not just like Americans or European. Not just like American or European.
but something else that I just don't know.
But something else that I just don't know.
So I'd be interested to learn
So I'd be interested to learn
about breakfasts all over the world.
And I'd be interested to learn about breakfast all over the world. About breakfast all over the world.
And my typical breakfast
And me, my typical breakfast. And me, My typical breakfast
is kind of like an American breakfast.
is kind of like an American breakfast.
Typical American breakfast.
A typical
Nowadays,
American breakfast.
my wife usually
Nowadays,
cooks me eggs, bacon, and maybe even hash browns.
my wife usually cooks me eggs, bacon, or maybe even hash browns.
Or toast or something like that.
Or toast or something like that. Okay. So, in me, my typical breakfast is kind of like an American breakfast. Nowadays, my wife usually cooks me eggs, bacon, or something, or maybe even hash brown, or toast, something like that.
Hash browns are potatoes
Hash brown are potatoes. Potato. Potatoes
that we eat for breakfast.
that we eat breakfast.
I don't really know how to describe them very well.
I don't really know how to describe them very well. I don't really know how to describe them very well. I don't really know how to describe them very well.
They're kind of fried, or maybe they're not. I don't know, but
They are kind of fried, or maybe they are not. They are kind of fried, or maybe they are not. I don't know.
they taste very good.
I don't know. The taste very good.
You've probably seen them before.
You've probably seen them before. Okay. So breakfast in other country beside American is very different. I haven't traveled. I haven't traveled to many countries, but in the countries uh, where I have traveled to, I have noticed a big differences in style of breakfast people eat. In Europe, for example, a breakfast is very small. I really surprised when I first went to Europe. Um, mm, I realized that breakfast is not a big meal. It's not a big meal. If you're from Europe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For many European, breakfast is simply a piece of bread with some butter or jam or something like that. Toast, I should say, butter toast or toast with jam or some kind of sweet bread or something like that. Plus orange juice, coffee. That's it. Maybe in French, people might eat croissant, might eat a croissant, and a cup of coffee, espresso. That's it. For me, as an American, that's tough. That's not easy to eat. Anything else to eat, not eat anything else. I wanted I want a little bit. I want a little bit more than that. But I know that people don't want to eat that much for breakfast. I understand that. I'm sure some of my listeners in other places around the world have even different breakfast, different have even different style of breakfast, not just like American or European, but something else that I just don't know. I I have been interested to learn about breakfast all over the world. And me, my typical breakfast is kind of like an American breakfast. Nowadays, um, my wife usually cooks me eggs, bacon, and maybe even hash brown or toast or something like that. Hash browns are potatoes that we eat for breakfast. I don't really know how to describe them as well. How to describe them very well. They're kind of fried, they're kind of fried, or maybe they're not. I don't know. But the taste very good. You probably seen them before. Okay, so I will shadowing from first until you probably seen them before. Okay, so first I want to talk. I so first we are we are gonna talk. First we are gonna talk about breakfast. This is really uh this is actually a really good topic for me. This is one of my favorite topics because breakfast is probably my favorite meal. There have three meals: breakfast, lunch, dinner, or maybe in your country have there are more than three meals. But um, in most countries, have we have we have a kind of we have some kind of breakfast. Is the first meal of the day. I want to tell you a little bit about American breakfast, the classics American breakfast. People see a certain style of people see a certain style of American breakfast when they watch American movies or TV shows, and for the most part, this image of American breakfast is pretty accurate. And what I should say is that we don't eat this type of breakfast every day. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on weekdays. Most Americans don't have a time to cook to make a big breakfast. Most Americans don't have a time to make a big breakfast. We have to get ready to have to prepare ourselves for our day at work. We don't have a bunch of time to cook breakfast in the morning. Yeah. So many American tend to make a simple. So many American tend to make a simple breakfast, or they might not even cook anything. They might just eat cereal or milk. When I was in elementary school, in middle school, or sometime when I was high school, I would eat cereal for breakfast. I love cereal, and it wasn't a bad breakfast. I actually enjoyed it, and I'm sure many of you probably enjoy cereal as well. It's good. There's a reason why it's so popular among people everywhere in the world. So many Americans eat cereal on weekdays, but on weekend we like to eat a bigger breakfast. So you are probably seeing the American breakfast in TV show or movies where when where the family sit down and eat egg, bacon and pancakes and all kind of thing like that. We don't do the sorry, we don't do that every weekend. It's definitely something that we don't often. Um, we like to go out to restaurant to eat breakfast there. So we don't to cook pancakes at home, but we want someone else to cook pancakes for us. So we go out to some breakfast restaurant or Sunday or Saturday. That is pretty common. I I did it a lot when I was growing up with my family or even as an adult. I still do this a lot. And so breakfast in country breakfast in other countries beside American is very different. I haven't traveled to many countries, but in the countries when I have traveled to, I have noted a big differences in the style of breakfast people eat. In a giraffe for breakfast. For example, breakfast is very small. I was really surprised that when I first went to Europe. Uh, so I realized that breakfast is not a big meal. So uh, if you're from Europe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For many European, breakfast is simply a piece of bread with some butter or jam, something like that. Uh, Butter toast or toast with jam, or some kind of sweet bread or something like that, plus oranges or coffee. That's it. For me, as an American, it's tough. It's not easy to eat. It's not easy to eat and not eat anything else. I want a little bit more than that. So, but I know that some people don't want to eat that much for breakfast. I understand that. I'm sure some of my listeners in other places in over the world around the world have even different style of breakfast, not just like American or European, but something else that I just don't know. I just don't know. I have been interested to learn about breakfast all over the world. And me, my typical breakfast is kind of like an American breakfast. Nowadays, my wife usually cook me egg, bacon, or maybe even hash brown or toast, something like that. Hash brown are potatoes uh, we eat for breakfast. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe them as well, how to describe them very well. So that's kind of fried, uh, or maybe they're not. I don't know, but the taste very good. You've probably seen that before. Okay.